So what we're going to point out today on the dormers on the front side of the house here is that the middle dormer here has actually exposed interior. The other two side dormers are in plastered rooms, and they're going to have a plastered ceiling at the collar ties above the bottom, the top plate. But this particular one was actually exposed because the interior of that room is all exposed wood paneling. And what we wanted to do was actually basically recreate what would have been the first generation of the clapboard roofing style. There's some evidence of that in other parts of the attic space before the cat slide went on. And that's how we know that was an original roofing that was originally installed there. So we sourced out some of the same material and the methods that are used to create this material, which is basically a tapered wedge, and it's considered clapboard roofing with an overlapping pattern. So it serves a purpose early on to get you somewhat waterproof before the actual shingles go on. So it's almost a roof under a roof. So what we have here are about 4 pieces of the clapboard roofing before it was installed and after it's been processed. So essentially what the method would be is an entire log, and then it's split like you're quarter sawing it. So you get a nice quarter sawn wood, which is very stable and strong. It'll support your weight and everything on so on, and it also stays straight because of the quarter sawn effect to it. So if you can imagine a log that's round like this, and they just come in a bunch of pie shapes on it, and they just come down going towards the center. Now this is a draw knife, but I can imagine that it's something similar like this, and they'd start it off right at the top of the log going towards the center. And then once you get through the log a little bit, they're going to tap that thing down, and they're actually splitting it. And what it does is, since the outside of the diameter of the log is obviously the larger part, it creates naturally a tapered wedge, a pie shape to each piece. So this is the thick leading edge. So ultimately this is going to go down and split this in half. Before all that's done though, they're going to dress this edges up. All the bark is going to be pulled off with the draw knife. So you can see some of the evidence there of some of maybe the deeper gouges coming from this direction, where that draw knife dug in a little bit more than intended. But ultimately they're dressing the edges up with this draw knife and pulling down and actually just giving yourself a little bit of a chamfered edge to the clapboard roofing. So I have 2 pieces here that are scrap cutoffs of what we were using. You can again see this chamfered edge is where the draw knife would have created that edge on the exterior diameter of the log. If you put these 2 pieces together, it's really remarkable how consistent the edges are and the thickness from front to back. So in a lot of scenarios, you have a roof that is entirely too long to cover with an entire piece. We were lucky and fortunate with this one to cover it with all one entire piece, but typically about a 5-foot piece would have been used. So every 5 feet, roughly every 3rd rafter, you have to do a half lap joint. It's a feathered edge joint. And ultimately what that does is it allows you to use less nails, because nails would have been very expensive. I'd like to just show a little bit of the method with the adze of what they would have done to feather these 2 together. So again, I have 2 pieces that work together right just like this that are the same thickness. So what I want to do is I want to take some off the top of this one and some off the bottom of this one. Now you can start to see how the feathering comes into play. the opposite side of this one, and then ultimately the overlay. And again, this allows the carpenter to use less nails. By doing this way, they're only using one nail to nail 2 boards down, saving 1 nail for every single course every 5 feet. Through the process here, we found a numerous amount of nails that we always save that are original 1705 period nails, and then we want to reuse those in the house as many times as possible. We'll put them back in wherever they may have shaken loose from. We actually have one that we're going to reinstall into this right here, including the ones that are coming through the clapboard roofing here, that most likely were that came from the roof, seeing as how they were in my pouch when we were doing this, because I saved every single nail that might fall to the ground and so on. So we do want to use as much of that 1705 product as much as possible, and keep it period correct. The slip joints that are at the peak of these rafters right here are still surviving from the 1705 period and still structurally sound, resting on solid material above and below, including this peg that never was cut off. For some reason this one was cut off on both sides. This one was existing, and you can still see some paint from a period of whenever they painted a lot of this these rafters and probably the entire room, which we were actually able to find a signature on top of the paint that dated into the 1800s, so we know that the paint is at least earlier than the 1800s.